This is Mike Price, Senior Editor of WWJ's Waterwell Journal. And today I'm speaking with Avram Frankel, PE, Principal at Integral Consulting, Inc. in San Francisco, California. With April's water quality and treatment being the issue focus for Waterwell Journal, we thought it would be a good time to catch up with Avram, who has worked with several emerging contaminants in his career. Welcome, Avram. Thanks for your time.
Hi, Mike. How you doing? You bet.
Good. Thank you. So to begin, it's been stated there are more than 4,700 PFAS-related structures, and the list continues to grow. Can you explain what PFAS, or per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, are, where they are most commonly found in our environment, and what man-made products they are in?
Yeah. Well, it is a very large family of substances, and you mentioned 4,700, and that list may expand. And they're substances that have been around for a long time, and they're used in a variety of industries. But it's just some common basic things that are good to understand. One is that the backbone of the compounds is a carbon-fluorine bond, which is one of the strongest bonds in nature. So there's a subclass of the compounds that are not degradable, and there's a wider family and some very large molecules that are degradable in nature, but then they eventually get down to this subset that is non-degradable, and those are the ones that are that everybody's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
As far as sources and where we find things, some really common ones, some that you might hear about, are former fire training areas where aqueous firefighting foam was used, metal plating shops where that same foam was used for vapor suppression. But we're also finding it in landfill leachate from past disposal practices, a wastewater treatment plant effluent, food packaging, biosolids disposal areas from wastewater treatment processing, and of course the polymer manufacturing industries, both manufacturers of polymers, of which these substances, many of them are, and also users of those polymers in industry. Some of the things maybe that people haven't heard about are re-injection wells. Sometimes water is treated and re-injected, but if it's not treated for the PFAS compounds, then stuff's going down re-injection wells. And I was just at a conference down in Southern California, and there's an issue with spreading basins where water is being treated, re-injected in the ground to restore aquifers or build up aquifer capacity, and that's a big deal in places like Southern California. Well, maybe PFAS compounds are ending up being re-injected into those spreading bases. Some other things people might not have heard about are sunscreens, and parchment paper for baking and things like that. So some other consumer products.
Okay, yeah, that was going to be my next question. Was the man-made products that were most seen PFAS in? Non-stick cookingware has been mentioned.
Yeah, I think yes, cookware for sure is sort of end use, but food packaging and carpets, and stain repellents, things like that, waterproofing chemicals, things like that. And it goes on and on. But some of the ones the ones that I hadn't known about until recently were things like sunscreen and ski wax. So, they're very, the compounds, it's a big family of compounds, many uses.
Mm-hmm. In the April Waterwell Journal Roundtable Q&A on PFAS, which you're a part of, you list some common misnomers or misconceptions about PFAS. In a nutshell, can you share these with our viewers?
Yeah, sure. Some really basic things that I think are still important things for people to understand are, we've discussed a little bit, it's a big family of substances, and only a small subset of that big family is currently the subject of regulatory concern. That might change, but so there's a lot of information out there, but it's really the subset that is really the big topic of discussion. I think there's some nomenclature issues too you brought those up that are really important. You know, we're using and the nomenclature has evolved over the years, but we use the term PFAS and pronounce it that way to refer to the whole family of substances. But then we have some particular compounds, PFOA, PFOS. There's a number of them, of course, but there's confusion between the word PFAS and PFOS, which is the PFOS compound. So at least for me, it's been easier, and I say this a lot when I speak in public. I just say PFAS for the family, and then all the compounds is like just say the letters PFOA, PFOS, PF whatever, because I think it just makes things a lot easier for everybody, and I'm trying to encourage people to do that. I know others are too. So that can be confusing.
Mm-hmm. And you speak of regulatory concern. Can you comment on the status of state and federal regulation of PFAS as of today, February 15th, and what it might mean for our viewers?
Yeah, well, our talk today is pretty timely considering that yesterday, you know, EPA released their plan with regard to PFAS, and you know, it's a very comprehensive plan, actually, and quite ambitious. There's a lot of elements to it. It included the intent to pursue an MCL, federal MCL for PFOA and PFOS. It included more in-depth toxicity studies for 7 other compounds, and then I think even basic toxicity studies for 150, I think it said, additional compounds, and it also implied increased enforcement at the federal level. And those are just a few of the things that were part of the plan. So, you know, it's a very dynamic environment is the short answer to your question, both at the state and federal level, and at the federal level, you know, yesterday was proof that it's a very dynamic environment. I think a lot of people were surprised at the breadth and depth of that plan, and I think a lot of people are wondering about timing for the various elements of the plan. And, you know, today, NGWA itself released a, you know, response to that plan, you know, one that I personally agree with a lot, which is, you know, based in a nutshell, we need to make science-based decisions here with regard, you know, underpinning any proposed MCLs at the federal level. And I think there's a lot of consensus about that. You know, as basically what NGWA is saying, I totally agree with this. The science is evolving. We need to evolve it, and that needs to be the basis for new regulations. You know, at the state level, there's a lot of variety, and some states are regulating, some states aren't. There are different levels, different kinds of precursor regulations, if you will. You know, requiring notification levels. In other cases, MCLs are the equivalent of MCLs, or groundwater protection standards, drinking water standards are being promulgated. So it's, people refer to it as a patchwork a little bit, and it's actually true. So it's a little tough to keep track of, and it's constantly, it's changing, it's dynamic, it's evolving.
It is, yeah. And just lastly, how would you advise someone to kind of try to keep up on track with the latest developments at the federal level, and then at their state levels, the respective state level?
Yeah, well, I think organizations like NGWA help with that, with their announcements. Certainly tracking, each state has its own email lists for, you know, status of regulations or movement towards regulations. There's various other industry groups, both nationally and at the state level. You know, ITRC has a worksheet that they're keeping updated with the various state regulations. So that's the Interstate Technology Regulatory Council, and so that's another. I mean, it doesn't get updated every day, of course, but I mean, it gets updated regularly, and that's very helpful.